Good afternoon, everyone. We are really glad to be back for another episode of Conversations from Stritch, and I am pleased to be joined by Dr. Christopher Sint, our provost. As we start the show today, we do want to express our deep regret and concern for historically black colleges and universities across the United States, as several have recently received bomb threats. The bomb threats have been unsettling, of course, to those people on campus. We can imagine that being here, that if we had to send out an alert to everybody that there was a bomb threat, it would be challenging. And we want to, hold those communities and those students, faculty, and staff in our prayers. We here at Lewis reiterate our commitment to anti-hate, to anti-racism, and to anti-terrorism, and we extend our thoughts and prayers to each of the HBCUs that have been directly impacted, and we stand in solidarity with them. We will continue to work tirelessly on our campus to create a welcoming, inclusive, and just learning environment for all of our members here. I also want to note, many of you, not all of you, but many of you have been in the Neil Carey Arena. And Neil Carey passed away this past week. He's a Lewis alum. He passed away on January 27th. And Neil was a member of the class of 1954. He was a member of Gordy Gillespie's first basketball team at Lewis University. And he went on to have an amazing career. I met many times with Neil. What a storyteller he was, and he had a really great career, gritty. For me, a real Lewis alum, because he was incredibly gritty in terms of both how he viewed the business that he was in, and the way that he became incredibly successful. And of course, at the end, really later in his career, he helped to establish the Carey Gillespie Endowed Scholarship Fund, and then also made a really significant contribution to the renovation of what is now Neil Carey Arena. He received the Alumni Achievement Award in Business and Philanthropy in 1997, and in 2019 was named the LaSallian of the Year at the Flyer Red Dinner, which celebrates all of our athletic accomplishments and many of our alumni. I did want to, before I turn it back over to Dr. Sint, I did want to say to everyone, thank you for your flexibility yesterday regarding the snow situation, but especially a special thanks to everybody who was on campus yesterday, the people in our facilities who were moving the snow so we could all park this morning, everybody connected to the running of the school behind the scenes, certainly our police and safety people, and everybody in residence life. Our students, when some of us were not able to get to campus yesterday, the students who live on campus were here, and the people that support them were here so that they could, eat and stay warm and safe and all of those kinds of things. So grateful for that. And also just want to, on my way to work today, heard about the military event that happened last night that took out the leader of ISIS. And for me, it's holding in prayer all those people impacted by that. Certainly the people in our military who were over there, their families who must have been incredibly scared overnight, knowing that their loved ones were flying in helicopters into Syria, and of course all the innocent victims who were killed that were just, being in the wrong place at that time. And it's a complicated event, but I just, I think as a community we hold and are grateful for those people in our military, and saddened by the loss of life that was connected to that event. So with that, Chris, I'll turn it over to you. We got some exciting announcements, as we always do, about the accomplishments of our community.
Yeah, thank you, and hello everyone. Great to be with you today. I do want to announce a few pieces of accomplishments and work going on in the community. First, work has begun on the Lewis University project called Reclaiming the Narrative, Restoring Black Voices to the Story of Joliet, which is funded by the Chicago-based Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation. Lewis is one of 11 recipients of the foundation's groundbreaking Broadening Narratives Initiative, and I believe we're the only university among those 11 other grantees for this project, which aims to fund specific projects that bring forward underrepresented stories in communities across the Chicago area. The Lewis University Adelman Regional History Project, the Lewis University Library, and the Lewis University Office of Community Engaged Learning formed a Lewis Communities Partner Coalition to gather, share, and preserve firsthand accounts of the Joliet region's Black history. The coalition also includes members of representing organizations, including the Joliet Area Historical Museum, Second Baptist Church in Joliet, Mount Zion Church in Joliet, Fairmont Community, White Oak Library District, and Fountaindale Libraries, among other partners. It's an incredible project that brings together so many great organizations in the Joliet community, and also brings together so many parts of our Lewis community here in connection and solidarity with African American history in our region. Dr. Vesna Markovic, professor and chair of Justice Law and Public Safety Studies, has led several efforts to advocate for violence prevention. Last year, she mentored 6 university students who participated in the Invent to Prevent competition focused on preventing targeted violence. In December, she partnered with Special Education Services at West 20 to develop violence prevention and training materials for Illinois teachers. And this month, she will travel to Springfield to help conduct in-person training to coaches from 7 Illinois school district hubs. It's an incredible project. That was a very brief summary, but many of our students and alums are also involved in the project, and we really appreciate that work by Professor Markovic. We're really pleased to resume our Rome program at the LaSallian University's Center for Education, also known as LUCE, this past week. 14 Lewis University students have traveled to Rome and will live in the Generalate in the mother house of the De La Salle Christian Brothers there in Rome through mid-April. So they did not go last year. They were there the year before and needed to come home at the very beginning of the COVID outbreak, so we're delighted that they're there again. We're able to do the program again this spring. The grounds and facilities at the Generalate provide a safe and ideal place to study and explore the city. Students will use Rome as their classroom, as well as travel to Assisi and other sites around the region, all while taking classes in history, theology, environmental science with Lewis professors. And thank you to those Lewis professors and the students and their families for making this work. It's really exciting. And then last, I'll mention that the university will host an art exhibition by artist Benjamin Calvert, and will open on February 7th and run through March 18th in the Brent and Jean Wadsworth Family Gallery. A reception and gallery talk will take place on March 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. Benjamin Calvert is a third-generation printmaker. His passion for nature is reflected in his use of wood blocks to create relief prints on paper and canvas. I can't wait to see that show.
I'm really looking forward to that as well. And in addition to all these, amazing academic, artistic, cultural accomplishments, which you just talked about in terms of our faculty and students, on the athletic fields, gyms, pools, etc., bowling alleys. We have a lot going on. So last weekend, our men's volleyball team went out to the West Coast and played against Pepperdine and UCLA and beat UCLA, which at the time was ranked 2nd in the country. And now we are ranked 6th in the country, our men's volleyball, and we begin a 4-game homestead hosting Central State Friday at 7 p.m. at Neil Carey Arena. And then the homestead continues on Saturday against number 8 Grand Canyon. A little reminder, you might say this again, but it's worth maybe saying twice, that in Dr. Sint's email last week, the 50-person limit was lifted, and so we really invite you to come out to Neil Carey Arena and watch our men's volleyball both Friday and Saturday night. It's a amazing team, as all of our teams are. So we hope you can come and support them. I was trying to put on my calendar, I'm not going to be able to be there this weekend, but 2 weeks from now, we're playing Ohio State at home. So, keep in mind that match. It's always fun to beat Ohio State at home. So, Lewis University men's basketball opens a 3-game homestand tonight, as it welcomes Truman State to Neil Carey Arena for a 7:30 tip-off. The Flyers and the Bulldogs met on Monday at Truman State, with Lewis coming away with a 65-56 victory for their 8th win in the last 9 games. The women's team also takes on Truman State tonight at 5:30. Both teams will play Quincy and Illinois Springfield on Saturday and Monday, respectively. Our women's softball season resumes this weekend. It's hard to believe they're playing softball when there's a foot of snow or more outside, but they're playing up at Mankato in Minnesota at the Minnesota State Dome tournament, where we'll play Concordia St. Paul and Minnesota Duluth. Women's tennis team takes on St. Thomas tomorrow night in Lockport at the Challenge Fitness Center at 6:30. And our men's tennis team plays Sunday morning at 9:30 against Hillsdale in the 5-Star Tennis Center in Plainfield. Men's bowling competes this weekend at the McKendree Baker Challenge, and women's bowling competes at the Saints Invite in St. Louis. Tomorrow is senior night for our men's hockey team, starting at 7 p.m. at Canlan Ice Arena, and that will be streamed live on Lewis University Television Network YouTube channel. So lots of athletics to go see and support and cheer on in the region. You can go to Lockport, Plainfield. Canlan is just kind of, I think it's actually in Bolingbrook, but it's right on the Bolingbrook-Plainfield border. And of course, Neil Carey is going to be busy this weekend with volleyball and basketball. So lots to be excited about.
Yeah, you're right. It's that time of the year when there is some seasons are ending, some other seasons are beginning, and also I think partially because of COVID, we're picking up more contests that have been rescheduled.
Yeah.
And some of our annual sports like tennis and sports that span the whole year, like tennis and bowling, are picking up for the spring semester now over these last couple weeks. So very exciting, a lot going on. There is less going on with COVID, which we're happy to report. The number of COVID-19 positive cases continues to decrease, which is a very encouraging sign. And we also want to remind people that we must remember to stay on the course that has helped us get to this point, remaining vigilant to continue practices that combat the pandemic. A couple highlights here. Our 7-day total of Will County cases per 100,000 was at 472 this morning, down quite a bit from last week, and but still much higher than at most of the points during the fall semester. Positive cases in our community here associated with members of our community, 25 last week in total and 6 so far this week. And then I've listed the vaccination rates in the county for fully vaccinated individuals as well as boosted individuals in the county, which those numbers keep going up. And we're grateful to our local community and our Lewis community to keep those numbers rising with more vaccinations and boosters. Just a reminder of the series of things that are happening and required. And again, I will have my regular Thursday email with much more detail this afternoon. Vaccinations are required. A booster is required by March 14th for all those who are eligible for the booster by that date. And we encourage people to always stay up to date with the booster and there more information about how to determine if you're up to date is in my email, and that is a question that can always be asked of the COVID hotline team if there is any confusion about that. We'll have a booster clinic here on the 10th from 1 to 4 in St. Charles Borromeo. And again, booster clinics are very available in our communities, and there are lots of ways to look up the availability of getting boosters. If you're thinking about it doing this weekend, there'll be a link in my email today about that, as always. A reminder that unvaccinated individuals have to submit testing results before Thursday at 6 p.m. every week in order to avoid fines and registration holds. And we will continue our testing Monday through Friday in Memorial Hall. And always remember to use the app to report a positive test, symptoms, or to upload vaccination or booster information. So thank you again to our community for incredible vigilance that has helped us recover a really positive way from the Omicron outbreak. And it's, as I said, it's not over, but it's definitely going in a very positive direction.
And if I could just comment on this really quickly. One, thanks to you again, everybody on the COVID hotline team, really everybody on campus who has really done such an amazing job of living the Flyers promise and really staying safe, getting vaccinated, getting boosted. But I also want to say now in this, I guess what I would call somewhat new period that was announced last week by Chris in his email and will continue this week. It's this balancing act now, staying vigilant in terms of all the things that we're asking people to do from a public health perspective and supporting each other and being a community. So we are now saying, get vaccinated, get boosted, wash your hands, wear your face covering, and go to the basketball game or volleyball game. Go to the art opening in a couple weeks. Go out and watch the bowling team. Get together with friends because you can be together with people. We want both those things because we want a vibrant campus. We want people to enjoy it. As we change these things, we want people to take advantage of these changes and stay safe. So I just want to, I think both those things can happen, and we're seeing it happen in the hallways as we walk through the different academic buildings. Mm-hmm. So anyway, and we have a guest today that we're really excited about.
So excited.
He's been here before, but we're excited to have him back.
So excited to welcome our guest today, Dr. Joe Kosminski. Dr. Kosminski is a professor and chair of physics at Lewis University. He received his Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Notre Dame, where he majored in physics and mathematics, and his MS and PhD in physics from Michigan State University. Though his training is in experimental high-energy physics, his primary research has shifted toward physics, education research in climate science and climate impacts. He is currently chair of the American Association of Physics Teachers, Committee on Science Education for the Public, a member of the board of directors of the Advanced Laboratory Physics Association, and an elected member of the Naperville District 203 School Board. Welcome, Joe. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great to be with you. And so we've, I'm always so impressed with all the different things you are doing and interested in them. And I want to first ask you about something that I didn't just announce in your biography, and we announced it on the show, few weeks ago, is that we have received, through your leadership, a very significant grant from the National Science Foundation. And we just wanted to ask you on and ask you to explain a little bit about that recent grant to start things off.
Sure, yeah, we're very excited about this award. It's a $1.49 million NSF Track 2 STEM grant for scholarships in STEM education. The project is called Project Synergy, developing connections at the interface of chemistry, physics, data science, and engineering. And we're going to be able to provide up to $10,000 a year in scholarships for financially needy students over the course of 3 cohort years. We'll be able to support mentoring, professional development, research opportunities, as well as provide other activities for these students over that time. Our goals are increasing retention rates and placement of graduates into STEM workplaces and STEM graduate schools, and help students increase their STEM identity through cohort building and research training activities. We're really excited to have this grant following from our first STEM grant, which was in physics and chemistry. And we're looking forward to expanding. I also want to thank my collaborators on this grant, co-PIs, Gina Martinez and Piotr Szyrzyk in ECAMS, Teresa Bixby and Jason Kelleher in chemistry, and Lauren Renfro in education. as well as Bill Seiler, who in sponsored research, and everyone else who contributed to the grant writing and data collecting and information gathering for putting this proposal together. We're very excited to have this NSF award.
Yeah, so Joe, can I just start with a question that maybe, I mean, as you said, this is a re-upping of this grant because you started with kind of 2 disciplines in the first round, and now it's this synergistic kind of 4 disciplines that we have on campus. But I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about, and Chris, you could maybe comment on this too if you want, but I'm interested in kind of from a societal point of view, and you're so involved on the national scene in terms of the profession of physics, that the federal government is basically, I mean, to put this bluntly, it's taking our tax dollars and putting $1.5 million into increasing the number of students that go into these STEM fields that come out of a background that maybe their financial resources as a family, not all these students will be first gen, but many of them will be first gen because it's about their financial capacity. So could you talk to me a little bit about these fields, physics and chemistry and engineering, and why you think the government and why you as a person wrote the grant to change, because I think what's happening here is we're changing the type of people that will be in physics and chemistry and engineering in the future. So why is that important as a society? And, why is it so great that we as taxpayers are funding it? And how does Lewis play into that in terms of the kind of students we serve and how you're able to recruit these students? Because obviously you did well in the first grant, which is why you got the second grant. So talk to me a little bit about its social implications for especially these fields.
Sure. Well, I think, just in terms of public funding for science, a lot of the issues in our world right now have scientific basis, things like climate change and COVID and many other things. So, public funding of science is important. What the STEM grant allows is for increased access and increasing representation in the science community. Physics is one area, and there are a number of others in STEM where it's been mainly white males who have been doing the science for a long time, and increasing diversity is really important. And part of our STEM Track 1 did help us increase the diversity of students in our programs. What that does is it kind of broadens the discussion. Students are able to go back to their communities, back to their families, and talk about the science. And we're able to reach more communities and the public, more effectively if more people are participating in science.
Yeah, I just think it's so crucial. I mean, and Chris, you're involved with this on a broader university scale, but maybe you want to make some comments.
Well, I would
about
just
that.
add to what Joe said, and I think he would agree, but tell me if you don't, is that it's, from the NSF's point of view also, I love what Joe said about the impact in community, but it's also an investment in our competitiveness as a country.
Yes.
To bring knowledge, the diversity of the people who are becoming scientists, working together, bringing new perspectives into really high level, as part of this program is about going to graduate school and so on. The NSF assumes through lots of research and data that will actually increase the production of scientific knowledge in these fields that we're talking about.
Yes, and I just add one thing to that, which is that is implied by both of you are saying, but not only is it a huge investment in our competitiveness as a country and an investment obviously in the field as all the things you mentioned, Joe, but I would, it seems to me that we know when we talk to families, all of us who, we're going to have visit days coming up, families come, they're looking at colleges. For first generation families and families who have less resources, it's a risky thing to start with, to go to college, because they don't know, am I going to be able to be successful? So now we are able to give people that $10,000, up to $10,000 to help make it less risky financially. But the other thing you mentioned, and maybe you could talk a little bit more about this, Joe, is the mentoring. So now it becomes a little less risky too, of like, am I going to be able to make it through this, right? Nobody in my family is a scientist. And I'm excited about it. I'm interested in it. I did well in high school in this area. But boy, the thought of becoming a physicist, when I don't know anybody on either side of my family that, thinks about that, that's a scary proposition, both for the parents and for the student. So that change of a whole, like you talked about this, Joe, going back to your family and being able to talk about chemistry or physics or engineering. So just, how does the mentoring work in this? And how important is that? We do that, I think, across the board well, even without this grant, because I know you as faculty, I just, whenever I walk through the science building, there's just this sense of community there. But talk to me a little bit about the importance of that, especially, as you said, for maybe students of color, first generation students. How does that play into their experience of Lewis as a STEM educational place?
Yeah, mentoring is an extremely important part of this grant. There are several layers of mentoring. There's faculty mentoring, but then there's also peer mentoring opportunities built in. And the grant starts off with kind of a boot camp where the students come in, before Welcome Week and get to know their cohort and do some cohort building and some, initial skill development that we hope will help them make that transition to college a little bit smoother. But then the mentoring goes on throughout the year and into, future years and into research. And, we really try to provide a broad range of opportunities and experiences and, professional development. For example, in the first STEM grant, we worked with students on resume writing and interviewing, and we brought in resources to, help them get ready for applying to graduate schools or applying for jobs. So that the mentoring component is a critical piece of this, and really, we hope help retention of the students and help them succeed in these programs.
Joe, maybe now, I guess that makes me wonder about, you mentioned that this is really the second iteration of this STEM grant for Lewis. Could you maybe give us some examples of some students who were in the first program, or people who've gone through that first program and how it, what impact it made on them, or how they are, doing
Sure.
now?
Yeah, so let me just start in general. We're very successful in getting students engaged in research. Roughly 70% of the students participated in undergrad research before their capstone experience senior year. We had several papers published by students as authors in journals. We had students going to national conferences and presenting, and almost all of the students presented at least locally at one time or another during the STEM grant. A couple of specific examples. I'll give one from the first cohort and one from our last cohort. Cynthia Saucedo, a student in our first cohort, was a chemistry major, started undergrad research the summer after her first year at Lewis. And she stayed on at Lewis, completed her master's degree, and is now working as a research and development director at a chemical company. So this program, helped her become a professional scientist. Maggie Capelbo is a current student. She's in our joint program, getting physics and mechanical engineering degrees, and they'll be graduating this May. They also started research right after their freshman year in an interdisciplinary project with aviation. presented that project at the conference in the Conference for Undergraduate Women in Physics, or CUIP, and won the first place poster award at that conference.
That's so
we've
impressive.
had students, be very successful in getting into the workforce and getting into graduate programs. And Maggie's slated to go to graduate school in biomechanical engineering next year. Still evaluating where she's going, but they're going to be going on for additional education.
So, Joe, maybe just a little box here. I'm going to set aside both people that, prospective students that could be watching, or prospective students or prospective parents could be watching, or the kind of putting this into, like, somebody might watch this 6 months from now because these are all, on YouTube and available later. So tell me a little bit about how big is the cohort? How competitive is it to get one of these grants, as you look at this, so that somebody just has the basics of, here's how I'd apply, here's how competitive it is, here's the kind of maybe level I'd have to be at in my high school.
When do they apply?
Yeah, when do they apply? What do their background need to be in terms of kind of high school GPA, background in courses? How competitive is it? And how many people would be in their cohort when they started?
Sure. So the cohorts are roughly 8 students if we're funding at the $10,000 level. In the first cohort, we were able to fund 31 students in total. This time we're going to fund, we say about 24 to 25 students at the $10,000 equivalent level. But the amount depends on financial need. So not every student is awarded the $10,000. So the way they apply is they first apply to Lewis. If they declare a major in one of the programs for the STEM, chemistry program, physics, data science, or engineering, they can apply. We're looking for a 3.0 high school GPA. Interest in science, a background where they're able to go and do calculus and physics their first year here. And what we're really looking at is their responses to a couple of essays about why they want to go into STEM, and their ideas about how science and society connect, as well as letters of recommendation from their teachers. So we're really looking at kind of a holistic application. We're not looking just at numbers.
Great.
And just to be clear, Joe, students are admitted when they're first admitted to Lewis. Current students cannot apply. Am I correct about that? Or
that's correct.
Okay.
Since we just got the award for this first cohort, we'll be making application materials available very shortly. And that the priority deadline will be the end of February, but we will keep on reviewing applications until our awards are distributed for this first cycle.
Great, thanks. And I just wanted to say that because it was a question that came through before we started today through the Ask Us at lewisu.edu email address, and that's just a reminder that anybody watching now live or after the fact, please use that address to ask us any questions, including questions for Joe, and we can get them to him when they come through.
Yeah, so Joe, you talked about undergraduate research. We're incredibly proud of all the undergraduate research that happened. The SURE program funded by Jim Gerard, one of our alums. I'm actually having dinner with him this week, so I'm looking forward to seeing him, and I'll tell him that we were on with this because he loves hearing about science back here. But tell me about your own research, Joe, and do you have any undergrads that are involved or have kind of spin-offs from your own research agenda?
Yeah, so my current research focuses kind of on 2 areas. One is kind of physics education. And what we're looking at, what I have students working on right now are developing low-cost advanced laboratories to, again, provide access to students. So labs that can, or components that can be 3D printed, setups that can be designed or built very easily by undergraduate students. My other research is in climate change and climate impacts. This is the direction that I've been shifting toward for a couple of years, and now have a fairly robust group of 4 students working in this. We have some funding from the Environmental Defense Fund and local partnerships with Warehouse Workers for Justice. And we're looking at air quality specifically in the Will County area, and trying to map climate vulnerabilities in the Will County area in cooperation with the Environmental Defense Fund.
Fascinating. And it's so great to hear that, what you're doing yourself and how and I think this is true for all of our young scientists. Research agendas can change over a lifetime, over a career of research, and I think that's important to understand. And just the local commitment, on climate change to Will County and to our workers and all of our health. We all breathe the air here. So the work that you and your students are doing, is helping all of us. So, Chris?
Absolutely. Here. I just want to ask about one other thing, but Joe, before we lose you, as a captive audience here, I mentioned in your introduction, you're also really, the interest in teaching in general, science education in general. But I know from some other work that you've done, you're also interested in teacher education at the secondary level and so on, and that research might cross over into that area. And then we also know, as I said earlier, that you're a school board member. So I just wonder if you could reflect a little bit on that kind of, at least high school education and its relationship to the sciences or to physics in particular. What are some of the challenges, and why is it so important that we do that well?
Yeah, physics education is really a critical need in the country. In terms of academic needs in the high schools, both in Illinois and throughout the United States, physics is the #1 academic need. Only around 40% of physics teachers in high schools have any sort of physics degree. So it's important to put more physics teachers with physics degrees into the high schools. And it's becoming increasingly important with the growing teacher shortage across the country. So that's a really important part of our department mission to put more students in classrooms, especially in Illinois. And in terms of the school board, I feel that scientists should be engaged in the public discussion. And part of my rationale for running for school board was to have a scientist, on the school board. As I said, science is permeates so much of our society, and data permeates so much of our society, and so I like to look at these problems through kind of a scientific and data lens, and I feel that I can with my higher ed background and scientific background, be a good representative on the school board. I also, tell the students how important it is to engage with the public and engage in the community. And I feel like this is, one way that I can do that.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. And we said just one more question, but I was wondering if I could have one more after that. So if we can keep
Sure.
Joe on,
We forgot something.
John, just one more thing. So I'm interested in now that you talked about that, I guess one thing is maybe you could tell me, because I was a chemistry major as an undergrad, but are chemists and math teachers teaching physics across the country if only, such a small percentage of them are actually have a degree in physics? So that's one question.
Best case scenario.
And secondly, the real question is, so tell me about the physics major at Lewis and our graduate degree program that students can also get into at Lewis.
Sure. So, yeah, chemistry also has a significant teacher shortage. They're, not far behind physics in terms of need. The physics major it has really grown over the last decade or so. Our program is nationally recognized by the American Physical Society. Last spring, we were the recipient of the APS Award for Improving Undergraduate Physics Education. We have about 60 majors, and we're graduating on average about 14 majors a year, which puts us in around the 85th percentile in terms of master's granting institutions. We have a very flexible program. We have a number of concentrations that students can go into, from the traditional physics program to secondary education, but also engineering programs and applied physics, which allows students to kind of design their own track to some extent, to go into things like medical physics or climate science. We also have 4+1 tracks from our undergraduate program into our master's program in physics. So students can do 5 years and come out with a bachelor's and a master's degree. And we just started another 4+1 this year with secondary education, where students can get their physics major and then add on a year and get a secondary education master's degree. So, we're also increasing our pathways into the high school classroom for our students who want to become teachers. Our master's program is fairly new, but we've had some good successes with students coming out of the master's program as well, in addition to cooperations with Fermilab and Argonne National Labs in that program.
That's great, Joe. And I will say, for people that don't know, to have 2 national labs within a half an hour of our campus, maybe 40 minutes, is really incredible. There aren't that many places in the United States where you can, drive an hour and get to 2 national labs. There are a few places, but they're few and far between. So we're very fortunate here in the Chicagoland area, and specifically where we are here in Romeoville, to have 2 such great laboratories to be able to, that you enhance by your work, collaboration with them, but they enhance opportunities for our students. So Joe, just once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for the work. Thanks to you and your entire collaborating team for getting this grant. And of course, in the end, it's just going to help these students. So the next, as you say, so these next 30 some students, 24 to 30 students that get these grants will, move on into society and do great things. We know, make the planet better, and that's really what we want. From Chicagoland and for a better world. So we appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
So my last comments to everybody watching, please, again, stay safe, stay healthy, get out and be more active, but do that in a safe way. Go to the games and matches this weekend. Spend some time with your friends. Make a snow angel. You can do that this weekend if you want, or sled. And really have a wonderful weekend. Many blessings to you and to your family.